It was Mother's Day, and I never thought I was pregnant until that day. And I ended up having to go in for an emergency C-section. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to our channel. So today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be talking about becoming a mom of 2 young kids in 1 year and how I overcame certain challenges that come along with that. So I remember with my first pregnancy with Ryder, it was already difficult to manage just because I have diabetes. It's considered a high-risk pregnancy. At a certain point, I had to go to my OBGYN and high-risk doctor like 3 times a week for non-stress tests to make sure the baby was okay and make sure his heartbeat was okay and everything like that. I remember just being super excited when I finally found out I was pregnant. I always wanted babies like young, and I was so excited. And so was Len. We were both really excited. Obviously a little nervous and everything because we've never done it before. Now moving forward to the end of the pregnancy and everything, I ended up having to be induced because I am type 1 diabetic, and it could have been dangerous. If he stayed in there like too long, it could have been too dangerous. He could have gotten too big, so I got induced. And I ended up having to go in for an emergency C-section. I was in labor for 14 hours, and I wasn't dilating. I only dilated to a 6.5, but it stopped at that. Like, it just stopped at 6.5. I wouldn't dilate anymore. So after being in labor for 14 hours, they looked at me and said, well, you might have to go in for a C-section. So at that point, I was in so much pain. I had almost 2 full doses of the epidural, and it didn't work. So I was like, yeah, let's do the C-section, because they were saying it was much safer to just do that because they had broke my water at 8 o'clock in the morning. It was at nighttime now. It was dangerous if the baby stayed in there without any fluid. So I just wanted to be safe and make sure that the baby was gonna be okay. So I went in for an emergency C-section. The baby, I ended up having to have a blood transfusion. I lost so much blood during the surgery, and thanks to my husband, there's a picture of that blood on my phone. I still have the picture. It skeeved me out at first, but now I'm like, look at this blood, like look at all this blood I lost. Like, so I ended up having to have 2 blood transfusions, and that was really hard. I was super scared because you're putting somebody else's blood in your body, and I was like really nervous about it. Everything turned out okay. So many people talk about during pregnancy and like your first, second, and third trimesters, but nobody talks about after pregnancy and like what actually happens. I just remember so many different hormones hitting me. Like after having the baby, I was so emotional, but I definitely had heightened emotions and like maybe the baby blues, as people call it. But one thing that stuck with me after having kids, specifically my second, was anxiety. And after having the first, I just remember I didn't want Len to leave, like to go to work and stuff like that. I was just so emotional, and I just didn't want him to leave. It was such a scary thing for him to leave me here with this baby, and like I just wanted his like support, and obviously like he had to go to work too. I remember just feeling like hopeless for a while. I was breastfeeding and mostly pumping for Ryder. I wasn't producing enough, so I was still on formula too. I only had my period like twice, 2 or 3 times. And at 5 months postpartum, I got pregnant with Hunter. We weren't planning it or anything, although we were super excited. I didn't even think I was pregnant until the day we found out, because I was supposed to get my period the next day. And usually, this is a lot of information, but sorry guys. Usually, I start spotting like before I get my period. And I wasn't spotting or anything. I had like discharge that you would have if you were pregnant. And I knew this because I had just been pregnant 5 months ago. It was Mother's Day. And I was like, let me just take a pregnancy. We just went to, I think, dinner, and we went out to go shopping for a little bit. And we were on our way home, and I told my husband, I was like, babe, I just feel like I need to take a pregnancy test. And I never thought I was pregnant until that day. We went to get the test and everything, and it was at nighttime. It wasn't even early in the morning or anything. And I took the test, and it was positive. And I was like, oh my gosh. I remember saying, what the heck? Because I was only 5 months postpartum. As funny as it sounds, I just started like thinking about having another baby again, and God definitely gave that to us. One of the biggest challenges, being pregnant with a 1-year-old. Oh my goodness. He wasn't even 1 yet. Well, he was 5 months old. And it was so difficult to be pregnant while taking care of a baby, because they need you so much. And I remember the first trimester feeling so sick all the time and being like so nauseous and just feeling like I had the flu, and still having to take care of this little baby. And it was so mentally and emotionally draining. Thank God I did have help from my family, my husband's family and stuff like that, but even with help, you're still like the main provider and caregiver for your baby. It's such an emotional time, just because your emotions are heightened because you're pregnant, but then you're still in charge of this little person, and like everything in you is not feeling good and all this stuff. That was a big challenge. I just had to keep like pushing through it. There was definitely days where I was like tired and I just wanted to go to sleep because I was exhausted from being pregnant and taking care of a baby. You know, I did it with the support of my family and my husband. We're very thankful for a supportive family. Also, it's super hard to manage diabetes with pregnancy because pregnancy changes all your insulin needs and everything like that. So like whatever you took before you were pregnant, however much insulin, throw it out the window because you're not going to use it anymore. Your insulin needs increase. Sometimes they increase a whole bunch at once. For pregnancy, I think I was taking 1 unit of insulin for every 15 carbs I ate. By the end of pregnancy, I was taking 1 unit of insulin for every like 2 or 3 carbs, which is a lot of insulin. Your needs just go up and up and up, and it just gets harder to manage and keep your sugars like stable. That was difficult to do while having a baby and then being pregnant. After getting pregnant at 5 months postpartum, I remember having this period of like almost like grieving having an only child. Like, and I felt sad for Ryder because I was like, he's only 5 months old, he's just a baby, and now we're like taking this special time away from him, and I just remember being sad about that. I'm sure other moms that got pregnant like super soon after they had their first, I guarantee you guys can relate to how I felt. I know how you felt if that happened to you guys. Quickly after having Hunter, that definitely changed. Let's get into when I had Hunter. I went in for one of my non-stress test appointments, and my amniotic fluid was so high that the doctor looked at me and said, well, what do you have planned for today? And I said, well, I guess I'm having a baby. I had to go in that day. Len and Ryder were sick, so they did not let Len come in the hospital. So they would not let Len come in the hospital with me while I was having the baby, and I had to have another C-section. So thank God they let my mom come in. Thank God they let my mom come in, but they still wouldn't let her come back to have surgery with me. So I was literally back there having surgery by myself. And the one thing that got me through that surgery by myself, I remember just telling myself, this too shall pass. And I just remember I kept reciting that in my head over and over and over again, like in my fearfulness and in my anxiety. I just remember giving to the Lord and saying, like, I know you've got this, God. Like, I know you got me. I just wanted to read that scripture in the Bible. Let me pull it up. So it doesn't exactly say this too shall pass, but it's kind of the gist of it. It says, so we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. For what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. So when I was thinking, like, Jesus is eternal, and what I'm going through right now is temporary. The thing I'm going through is such a small thing to God. Like God already won. God already won this battle. God has got me. And I just remember finding peace in that, and just knowing that God was on my side. I knew he was going to protect me and my son. Although it's a scary thing, like having surgery by yourself. So after having the baby and everything like that, there was another struggle, almost like struggling to feel like I was in reality for like probably 2 months. It felt like a time warp, like a daze to me, because it was so different from just having one baby, and like all the emotions and hormones that go through your body, like postpartum, they play a part in it too. But I remember it took a good 2 months for me to actually feel like it was normal to have 2 kids, and I felt like I was like surviving and just figuring it out for them 2 months. The one thing that helped me get through that, because I remember being scared to take them out in public by myself because they're so little and stuff like that, but the one piece of advice that I can give you guys is the way that I actually was able to overcome the anxiety and the fears that I had of like staying home with the kids by myself for the first time as mom of 2 and going out in public with them alone for the first time, is actually doing it. And I know it sounds like cliche and maybe a little bit crazy and hard, but as I found myself doing it, I was like, wow, this is actually doable. And although it may be difficult, I can handle it and I am capable. So feeding into those positive thoughts and telling yourself you are capable and that you can handle this and that you will figure it out. Like, it's okay that it's hard. I'm not saying it's not going to be hard. It will be difficult, 100%. Anybody that has young kids will tell you that. But doing it is half of the battle, because once you do it, you might realize, like, hey, this wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. Or you might realize, hey, this was really hard the way that I did it, so next time, this is how I'm going to approach it differently. That's what really helped me. So now, instead of saying like, hey, I don't want to do this, I go in full force and I'm like, we're gonna do this, and if it fails, we're gonna figure out another way. And anybody with young kids will tell you, it's a hard job to be a stay-at-home parent, and it drains you mentally, physically, emotionally, but it is definitely so rewarding. I'm so thankful that I get to actually spend the day with them and be home with them, and it's such a blessing to be able to be there with them, and I am really thankful for that. It doesn't mean that it's not hard. I think a lot of people have this thought that when you tell them that it's hard and that you're exhausted and stuff like that when you have kids, a lot of people think like, how dare you say that about being a stay-at-home mom, or how dare you say that about being home with your kids? But people that have kids, they do understand. It's not a bad thing to feel like it's hard. What matters is that you think about the positive side of things. Becoming a mom to 2 boys in 1 year was such a crazy journey, but I would not change it for the world. It has shaped me into the person that I am today. It's made me stronger, it's made me more confident, and it's made me myself. I feel like I found myself in motherhood. I really feel like being a mom, it makes you not take anybody's bullcrap. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. Because once you're a mom, you are worried about your kids. So like anybody else's little bullcrap that you don't need to deal with, you're not going to. You're just worried about your babies. I don't know. It makes me more confident in like holding my opinions. All right, guys, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you guys have any questions about like this whole experience of having 2 babies in 1 year, please comment down below. I would love to hear your stories, or guys, if any of you have experienced this too, where you have 2 young kids like close together, guys, I would love to hear your stories and everything that's happened in your lives. Or if you just have any questions, I would love to comment back and talk with you guys. Be sure to leave this video a like, comment, and be sure to subscribe to this channel. We are trying to grow our channel, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys in the next one.